Today's episode of the More You Know podcast features Sanja Hatter, who's the co-founder of Thrive, Make Money Matter, one of the biggest entrepreneurial events, and also Living the Dream Global, as well as John Malott, who's a chairman of Build Your Empire, an author and speaker who's amassed over $1 billion in global sales, as well as being featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, USA Today, and more. And lastly, Brandon Steiner, who's a legendary sports marketer and entrepreneur, who founded Steiner Sports, working with incredible athletes such as Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, as well as an author, speaker, and host of The Hookup. I asked each of them what was the best piece of advice they ever received. Enjoy the episode.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The More You Know podcast.
All right, so the best piece of advice that I've ever received is how to love somebody. Sounds silly, but the 5 love languages is going to help you in having a better relationship with your significant other, with your children, with your employees. Me being able to understand and appreciate my employees the way that they need to, that's going to help you with turnover. You're not going to be needing to have people going in and out because they feel loved, they feel appreciated, they're going to stay. My children, being able to understand them better because I need to love them differently than the way I am loved. You know, for example, my husband, he needs there's 5 of them. So there is physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and giving gifts. So my husband, he loves quality time and physical touch. So for him, if I'm just sitting next to him, watching TV and holding his hand, he's happy. If I'm sitting down having a coffee and just, holding him, he's like on cloud 9. That is how he likes to be loved. Me, I like when he throws out my trash for me. I'm in acts of service. Like, if you do anything for me, get me coffee, pick up the kids from school, go to the grocery store, that is love to me. I don't need you to tell me that you love me. I'm not a words of affirmation person. I need you to show me. And so I love acts of service. So I think that the best advice would be to read Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages, and you will be able to just change everything in your entire life with everybody. And it's just so amazing. There's an easy quiz online. Find out how you want to be loved and find out all those around you how they need to be loved.
What is the best piece of advice you have ever received? I think the best piece of advice that pops in my head right away is that you don't have to be great to start, but you've got to start to be great. And that was always my hang-up. I always thought that the moon and the sun and everything had to align just perfectly before I could make something happen. And I always felt like, oh, that was for that person or this person with the pedigree. Of course, the guy with the Rolls Royce, that he was born in the house with the Rolls Royce, he's always going to have an advantage. And I always was making excuses for why things weren't happening for me. And in the end, it just came down to me going out and doing it. And I started to learn these simple disciplines, practice every single day. Didn't seem like much, that day when I was doing it. It's like in health, 2 people in their 20s, one goes out and every day is eating Big Macs and they're not exercising, they're not taking care of themselves. Maybe they're smoking or whatever. You don't look like nothing. It doesn't look much different than the other 20-year-old who's eating healthy and watching, what they put in their body and they exercise. Maybe in the 20s, they don't look like much. I could go out and party all night long when I was 20 years old and function just fine the next day. But over a period of time, though, the simple errors in judgment, it's not the one Big Mac that takes you out. It's not the one cigarette that takes you out. It's the combination over a period of time that eventually leads you on a downward cycle. And just the opposite of simple disciplines, practice every day. Doesn't seem like much the day you're doing it, but do that every single day, compounded over a period of time. And all of a sudden, people are calling you a success. People are saying, you got lucky, but they didn't realize, while you were messing around or while you weren't practicing simple disciplines every day, I was, and that's the reason for what appears to be luck.
If you use your head, you don't have to use your feet. A lot of times people are grinding and they're working 24 hours. It isn't always the, smartsmanship is really important. And the other thing is, don't get stuck on stupid SOS. Just because you got your heart set on something and you work really hard towards something, sometimes you just got a bad idea or just something you're on the wrong track. Don't be afraid to quit. Learn from your mistakes and start off new and find a new track. I think the most important thing I've ever learned from anyone is, if you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. And follow up, and follow up, and follow up. The fortune is in the follow-up. And I think, if you're going to say and make a commitment to doing something, regardless of whether it's painful or inconvenient, do what you say.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The More You Know podcast.